let's move on to our final story. A very contentious story, at least in Saint Lucia. You know, Game Changers is originally based in Saint Lucia. I am Saint Lucian. This is a podcast mainly for Caribbean people. And our final story speaks to that regard, but I think it speaks to a broader picture as well. The final story is titled, Does St. Lucia Have Poor People? Now, recently, a popular St. Lucian entrepreneur made some statements on a local talk show. In fact, I covered this story in my day job for the news. On the talk show, he made the following statements.
Saint Lucia doesn't have poor people, Tim. I heard you talking
we do no
Tim.
Mr.
Saint Lucia
Gajadhar,
does not have
we do
poor people.
have poor people. We do have indigents in our society. People are below being poor because of the circumstances in terms of from generation to generation, not being able to fend for themselves, poor education, lack of skills, that contributes to poor housing. Poor housing contributes to poverty.
Listen to this. My view of it is much different, right? Do you know there's a major problem in getting workers in Saint Lucia?
Skilled workers?
No, just workers that even want to learn. You cannot get workers who even want to learn. You get workers who want to get paid. They don't want to learn. Why are you telling me there are poor people when there's so much opportunity in Saint Lucia?
What about the incentive? What is the opportunity you're making reference to when, for example, somebody will be paid below minimum wage? Okay?
You start somewhere. You start somewhere and learn.
You have to be incentivized.
No.
Because otherwise, it's even going to a training program that comes at a tremendous cost. But if you're traveling from, let's say, V4 to Castries to participate in that particular exercise.
Tim, government has some programs. And even out of those programs, I don't see anything much happening because we are not driven to do better for ourselves. I find we are not driven to do better for ourselves. And I think if you ask me, the government, the successive governments do not drive and force people to become better for themselves. However, in China, in Russia, in India, you are almost forced to be better and do better for yourself.
So we hear that Mr. Gajadhar, Rayneau Gajadhar, is saying here that St. Lucia does not have poor people. And his rationale for this is that, there are so many opportunities out there for these people and they're not utilizing them, basically because they're lazy or they don't have that initiative. And this has caused, obviously, a stir on social media. It has caused a stir in several segments of society. And when I looked at that, I could cover the story as a story for the news, but really as a journalist in that regard, you can't really opine, you can't really give your opinion on the entire situation. But this platform provides the opportunity for me to do just that. I have a couple of ideas, a couple of chess moves based on what Mr. Gajadhar said. The first and foremost, I want to point out that I do not agree with his notion that St. Lucia does not have poor people. Like the host Timothy Polio correctly pointed out, there are socio-economic factors, poor housing, low-income situations, family history that have placed people in poor situations, right? So I agree with that, right? So I guess that doesn't really count as a chess move, but I just want to say that firstly. But the real chess move that I derive from that, and it's something that I actually agree with Mr. Gajadhar with, is that it's important to grab opportunity. I do agree that we have too many people in St. Lucia and the Caribbean in general, because I lived in other countries in the Caribbean. And that's probably true about the world, other places in the world. I do believe that we have several people in the world who just sit down and complain about there not being opportunities, but don't grasp the opportunities when they do come. Mr. Gajadhar rightfully said, many people don't even want the opportunity to learn. They want the opportunity to get paid, but they don't want the opportunity to learn. And I think that is so true. And everything about successful people that I've studied, everything about successful people that I've spent time around, even success in my own life, many times we garner that success by just spending time around people who have already gotten it and learning from them without, actually getting a salary. Now, I'm not saying that, you should be doing that full time, but we do have an attitude in the Caribbean of not wanting to learn certain things, not wanting to learn about certain things, and then we blame the government or we blame society for not taking care of us. And I think that it's important that we spend time learning from those who have already, been ahead of us. That's why I think it's important to grasp opportunities. If opportunities come your way, if there is somebody who is learned, somebody who is already successful in a field that you either need to be or want to be successful in, spend time around those persons. It's important to grab opportunity. So that's one chess move that I grabbed from him. The second chess move that I grabbed from him is that, and something else that I agree with him on, is that we tend to depend too much on the state for so many things in our lives. We often hear that notion that the government is not doing X, the government is not doing X, Y, Z. And it might be true that the government isn't doing certain things, is not living up to the standards. But if we see that successive regimes, regardless of what political side you support, are not providing what you need or what you want, why not try to do things on your own, right? It will give you an independence, so you will not owe anybody else, when you get that success. But find ways to collaborate with people on the ground. I mean, we as a people, as a network of people, have so much information, so much resources among ourselves. But we are so busy looking upwards with our hands open for somebody to give it to us that we do not we are so busy looking upwards with our hands open for someone to give it to us that we don't see the power that we have within ourselves. It's important to learn to be self-sufficient. Governments come and go. Governments have limited periods. Governments are limited in what they can do. Find a way to be self-sufficient. Find a way to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get stuff done. Yes, hold the state accountable when they promise X, Y, and Z. But, ultimately, these people are human beings and they have a limited time in office. We need to find out a way to do better for ourselves and not just depend on somebody else to give us money, to give us opportunities. If we do get opportunities, like I said earlier on, grasp them. But we need to make opportunities for ourselves, because ultimately we are the ones who suffer. We are the ones who would need to find opportunities to pay ourselves, to take care of ourselves and our families. All right. So the chess move here is stay away from over dependence. Right? Stay away from over dependence. We can pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps if we really network and connect with each other.